It's the Guru Coder, probably something you haven't heard in a long time, and I am back and I'm going to be doing new tutorials all the time. I'm going to aim for doing once weekly, maybe a bit more, just sharing everything that I know and that I do to hopefully help make you guys better developers, and obviously hopefully help you make a bunch of dough in the meantime as well, so you can better your lives. So today in this tutorial I'm just going to go over something that's not even code. It's going to be building upon a set of videos that I'm going to be making, which are designed to just help make the whole development life cycle a lot easier, be it when you're doing things on your own or when you're doing things as part of a greater team. So we're going to go into Gitflow. Gitflow is something that's been around for a while, but amazingly not everyone uses it. It's quite used in the open source world with concepts like semver, which is semantic versioning, which we'll cover in a different video. But effectively, a Gitflow is how your flow of commits and features work when you're dealing with a project. And I'll go through this diagram and then we'll do a practical exercise to show you how exactly you should be using Gitflow. And this isn't a hard and fast rule of how you should be doing anything. Of course you can do whatever you like, but this is what I've found that works best personally for me, and also in places that I've worked. Nearly everywhere I've worked we've implemented Gitflow, and it makes everyone's life a lot easier, especially once you're dealing with projects that get committed to by a lot of separate people and you've got loads of changes going in at the same time, whilst you've got new features, whilst you've got bug fixes getting done. So it starts with this. Your blue line here is your main, so your master, so to speak. And the way that these days that I do it is I do it with only one eternal branch. So the main is the eternal branch. The old Gitflow way of doing it, you'd have a main and you'd have a develop branch. Your develop branch is where all the developed things come from, and then your main is just where everything else is based on. The way that I'm teaching you today, there's only one main branch. You only have one eternal branch. And the way it works is like this. Assuming you're starting a new feature, you would create your new feature version immediately, and you would do something along the lines of release 1.0.x, because you don't know yet what the X is going to be, but you should more or less know if you're going to have a new feature, if you're going to have a hotfix, and so on. And generally speaking, this is how I name all the new releases. So we're going from main is up to date, so we create a new release 1.0.x, and then that release will live, as you can see here, until any feature work is complete, and then once it's finished it gets back into main. How do you do feature work? Well, feature comes off of a release. Once you've created your release, you simply create a new feature / whatever you want. In different places that I've worked, we've used Jira tickets as the part for after the /. In some places we've used names, and essentially we just go by that. And honestly, Jira ticket or name. A name helps it be more apparent what something is when you're working on the command line, but the ticket numbers help, because then if you're using a tool like Jira will pull in all of your pull requests and things like that if you mention the ticket number on the release, or on the ticket, or on the commit, on the branch or on the commit. And you're working on this feature branch, carries on, and then once you're done with that, you merge that into the release. Now you're probably wondering, what if other people push stuff up to the release branch whilst you're working on it? Well, that does happen, and all you'd have to do is you either firstly have to decide if you want to do merge or you want to do rebase, but you simply then just either merge the release into your feature or you rebase your feature against the release branch, and then no problem, everything's up to date and it's where it should be. Once that is done, you're probably also wondering, what about hotfixes? So we've got hotfixes here. A hotfix nearly always has to come off of a release. If it is for a specific release, say your master project is running on release 2.0, you're currently working on release 3.0, but you need to fix what's on 2.0. You would then do a git branch from the tag, the latest tag, and you would create a new tag based off that, because your releases, as you know, that I've mentioned, are not eternal. Effectively, once you have merged this release, the release branch goes away, but what doesn't go away is the tag, meaning that you'll always be able to branch off of a point of wherever that release was and do any additional fixes. and then it's up to you for how long you support those fixes. For hotfix, like we were saying a minute ago, it goes from the main, and then you just create your new hotfix branch. It would be hotfix / ticket or description. You do your hotfix, and then you merge it down back into your main. After you've done any applicable testing, you create a new release, if you like, specific for the hotfix that comes off of your latest tag, or you can literally simply just go ahead and merge it straight in, and obviously make sure you test or whatever you need to do. It's up to you really how it flows, but this is just how to keep the code in the right place and get it merged down. Obviously you need your hotfix in your release branch and your feature branches, so long as the hotfixes so long as the features and the releases are not major changes, because obviously if you're making a whole refactor, then going off of the same main branch isn't exactly going to work. So in that case, either in your new work you've already fixed the problem, or you're going to have to then just redo it specific for your new release. So enough about theory. I'll share this Figma so you can have a look, and I'll be adding to it as well, because this is a really basic diagram that I've made here just for the purposes of this video. But we'll go into a real demo now. So I've already got a repo that I prepared here earlier for Gitflow, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to be cloning that. So I've got everything in my code directory, and we're going to run git clone the repo, and we clone it into Gitflow, and then we're going to go into Gitflow and we're going to begin. So step one, I want to do a new feature. So what I do here at this point, I do git checkout, I do release, and we're just going to do a version 1 release. So I'm going to call it release 1.0.x. That's there. I'm going to push that up. You might not have your Git configured to push dynamically. Git will tell you what to run in that case. In my case, I've got it set up to push directly based on whatever my current name is. So we've now got our release. How do we do a feature? So my release is already pushed up, but there are no changes to it, but I want to start my feature. So again, just from the release, we're now going to do checkout feature / and we're just going to call it check out some new feature. So, and then again, we're going to push. And now all I'm going to do is, firstly, I'm going to close that, and I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code. Let's make this full screen, and we're just going to make some amendments to the README. So I'm going to find the code. I'm going to find Gitflow. And now that I've got Gitflow, I've already got a README. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the link to Figma into the README. Actually, I'll just do the whole link like that. And then let's just double check it. So there's my change. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add those changes to Git. So to do that, do git add. You can do dot to add everything, or you can just specify the exact name. That's added now. So, but we still need to commit it. So we're going to commit it. Just using Vim here. Added the link to Figma. And escape :x to save it. And then we're going to push that. So I did a git add readme, a git commit, and a git push. And I'm starting to realize it might be a bit difficult to read with my transparency. So we now have on Git showing a new feature. So I'm going to click create and create pull request. We're going to change the branch to the release branch instead. So now we're taking, just as I showed on my diagram, we've created a release, created a feature, but we're actually merging that feature into the release. So we're building up a release, and the release is what we're eventually going to tag. And then we're also going to merge the release branch into mine so that the main has all of the changes. So I know what the changes are, but we're just going to have a look here. That looks fine. And there it is, Figma Gitflow, and it works. So I was able to test it out. So that's fine. You know, in your real world processes, you could have someone review these releases. You could have it set up so you have rules so that people aren't allowed to merge if they are trying to merge something in a release. So in a real world environment, you'd be able to control who can and can't create releases. So let's say it looks good. Even though it's my own, I'm not going to bother approving it. And I'm going to merge it. All I've done now is I've merged my release into my feature. By this point, I can just delete my feature. So in the real world, you'd be able to, at this point, either release your release branch to a specific environment, depending on how your releases are done. It's really up to how your whole deployment process works. But there are loads of stages here with Git where you can use GitHub actions to trigger things off of the back of releases, such as create your builds, do automated deployments and things like that. So by this point, I now have my feature in my release, and I'm going to do everything via Git, the GitHub interface, because this is how I've done most of my projects throughout my career. I'm going to select the release branch as the target, and over here we're going to actually now tag it. So you can tag this in a variety of ways. You could run through semantic versioning, and you could actually tag an alpha at this point, where you're tagging it and it would be an actual alpha. You can generate using GitHub to create the changes there, and then you'd also set this as a pre-release, so effectively it's not production ready. And now you have your alpha tag. And then with semantic versioning, which I said we're not going to cover here, you could have then a beta and then so on to finally get an RC to get your project ready to actually then be merged to master. You'd only merge to master once you reach RC. We're not going to go through that. So what I'm actually going to do is just ignore alpha, and I'm going to delete that. I'm going to delete the tag I just created as well, and we're just going to go straight up and do a version 1 release against the release branch. So 1.0.0, that's what I'm creating. We've added it there. It's not a pre-release. I'm releasing it straight up, and now we have a stable tag tagged. However, you'll realize that I didn't do any merging to master. So at this point, we'd go, now that the release has the code merged in, we then get the master or the main up to date. So I'm not going to bother putting in a description. You would have all of your checks be run here and so on with your rules to make sure that stuff doesn't go to where it doesn't have to. But at this point, you can merge that in, and now my release is in main, and really I can safely delete it here because now my code is in main. I have my readme with the update, I have my release, and then if let's say that I've had different releases that are going, I'd be able to hotfix just this. And the way we do that is you'd find your release, you'd get your commit reference for that release, and you could also do it off of something else too. So what I'm going to do is just close these down so you can see it better, and then we go checkout main. It's not up to date because I need to pull the changes. I've got my changes now, and the next step would be, assuming I want to create a hotfix off of that release, so we need to get our tags. So I'm just going to get fetched, make sure we have all of our tags, and we're going to go git checkout tags, and then we're going to set the tag we want to check out from, and then we do -b for the actual tag, and then we would, from that, we'd create a new hotfix, fix the readme, for example. So now this is a new branch from my 1.0. So if main had already diverged from this release, my hotfix would actually be from that actual release, so I wouldn't be introducing anything else into this particular release. And another thing I also forgot to do in doing this, what you'd have to actually do is you'd have to check out the tags 1.0.0 to a release first. So you do, I've already got a release, but let's say we're doing 1.0.x as my release. I've already got one, so I didn't delete it on my local, so I would just go back and use my local. So long as my local has the right version, and then I would do my hotfix from here. As you can see, the upstream is gone, so you'd have to push it back up because we are going to be creating a hotfix release against the release. I'd go back again to my hotfix, so just git checkout hotfix. Oh, I forgot the T. I've checked out to the hotfix, and now we're going to Visual Studio again, and I'm just going to add a little message here. You can also check out my personal site. My personal site, a little plug, you can buy ready-made things. It's thegurucoder.com, and you can also, if you need help, you can hire me and I can help you out with any sorts of problems that you may have. I've helped loads of people in the past that have reached out to me via my YouTube. One instance was a gambling company who used RabbitMQ. I had made a bunch of videos about how to use RabbitMQ, and they really needed my help. So actually, what did I call it? We called it Gitflow. There we go. So make it a bit bigger so you can read it. I've now got my change. I'm going to add it. I'm going to commit it. And we're going to do git push it up, and then we're going to open up Chrome, and now we're going to create a new pull request for our hotfix. So our hotfix is specific to the 1.0 release branch, so we are actually going to send the hotfix back onto that branch. I'm not going to bother naming it, you can call it whatever you want. I'll create my pull request, my changes are there, as you can see, and then once again I can just merge that into the release, and now I can simply create a new release again from the release branch, and we'll call it 1.0.1. We can click that to generate the tags, and it is the latest release because we're not doing pre-releases at this stage. That's up to you, but you can use the exact same flow and still use pre-releases. If you have any questions about it, let me know. And finally, once again, we need to make sure main has all of the changes. Obviously, this is only because main has not diverged. In the real world, you wouldn't need to do this. In the real world, you've just made a support fix for that one release, and then if you do need to take it onto other releases, you can either merge it in if it hasn't diverged too much, or if it hasn't, you're going to have to create just a new hotfix specific for the newer version. That's pretty much it. Obviously, if I had many other releases and stuff like that I wanted to merge, I could go about and merge my specific fix into them. If I wanted to have multiple people working on a release at the same time, they would all branch from the release that they were going to merge into, and again follow the exact same flow. Gitflow makes working in teams extremely easy, and it also makes just working locally a lot easier. It helps you with where your code exists. It keeps things in a structured way, so that if you ever do take your personal project into then being into a proper business scenario where it's actually used in production in the real world, and then you're having to hire other people, it's not a total crap fest, and it's a lot easier for people to just pick up and run with it. So I've been the Guru Coder. Thanks for watching if you made it this far. If you have any questions, post it in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click that little bell icon so you get all new videos, and if you have any requests, please add them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer any and all your questions about development, design, marketing, whatever it is that you may need. Thanks for watching. Bye.